Picture this. You're standing at your kitchen sink, washing dishes after hosting dinner for friends. As you scrub each plate, a familiar heaviness settles in your chest. Once again, you've said yes when every fiber of your being wanted to say no. Your friends have gone home, leaving behind not just dirty dishes, but that awful feeling that you've let yourself be used again. How many times have you felt this way? That gnawing sensation in your gut telling you that you're being taken advantage of, yet feeling powerless to change it. You see, most of us have been programmed from childhood to be nice, to put others first, to sacrifice our own needs for the greater good. And while kindness and generosity are beautiful qualities, there's a shadow side to this programming that nobody talks. It's the side that leaves us feeling depleted, resentful, and wondering where our own lives went while we were busy living for everyone else. Right now, I want you to close your eyes and think about the last time you felt taken advantage of. Really feel it. What emotions come up? Anger, shame, helplessness? Hold on to those feelings because they're trying to tell you something important. You know, I used to believe that being spiritual meant always turning the other cheek, always giving, always saying yes. But I was wrong. True spirituality, true personal power comes from honoring yourself enough to set healthy boundaries. Think about nature for a moment. Every living thing has boundaries. Trees have bark. Animals have territories. Even your own cells have membranes that decide what gets in and what stays out. These boundaries aren't walls of hostility. They're loving filters that protect life itself. So why do we humans, especially those of us who pride ourselves on being givers and helpers, feel so guilty about having boundaries? Every time you let someone take advantage of you, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting them too. You're enabling behavior that stunts their growth. You're teaching them that it's okay to treat others as doormats. You're robbing them of the opportunity to develop their own resources and resilience. Let me share something with you that changed everything for me. I was counseling a woman who spent her whole life saying yes to everyone. She worked extra shifts to cover for coworkers. She lent money she couldn't. She watched her sister's kids every weekend while her own dreams gathered dust. One day, she broke down and said something that hit me like a thunderbolt. I thought I was being kind, but cruel to myself and cruel to them. I've taught my children that it's normal to exhaust yourself for others. I've taught my friends that my time has no value. I've taught my family that my dreams don't matter. That's when it struck me. Saying no isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about teaching others how to treat you and themselves. It's about modeling healthy self-respect that ripples out to transform all your relationships. But here's the really beautiful part. When you start honoring your own boundaries, something magical happens. The people who truly love you will adjust. They'll respect your limits because they care about your well-being. And those who get angry, those who try to manipulate you with guilt or accusations, they're showing you exactly why you needed boundaries in the first place. Think about that for a moment. Really let it sink in. The people who get upset when you start respecting yourself are the very ones who are benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Isn't that interesting? You might be sitting there thinking, but what if I lose relationships? What if people don't like me anymore? These are valid fears. But let me ask you something. If a relationship can only exist when you're diminishing yourself, is it really a relationship worth? Every time you say yes, when you want to say no, you're selling a piece of your soul. Every time you let someone cross your boundaries because you're afraid of their reaction, you're telling the universe that their comfort matters more than your integrity. What if? And this is a big what if you started treating your own feelings, needs, and dreams with the same reverence you give to others? What if you began seeing your boundaries not as walls that keep people out, but as sacred circles that protect your energy for the things that truly matter? I want you to do something right now. Put your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. That heartbeat is your life force. It's the rhythm of your unique purpose on this planet. Every time it beats, it's saying you matter, your feelings matter, your needs matter. Now think about all the times you've ignored that heartbeat to please others. All the times you've pushed down your own truth to keep the peace. All the times you've said, it's fine when it wasn't fine at all. Your heart deserves better than that. You deserve better than that. But here's what's crucial to understand. Setting boundaries isn't about building walls or becoming cold and distant. It's about creating clear, loving limits that protect your energy for the things and people that truly matter to you. It's about being able to give from a place of fullness rather than depletion. When you start this journey of setting healthy boundaries, some people won't like it. They've grown comfortable with the old you, the one who always said yes, the one who never complained, the one who put everyone else first. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their reactions belong to them, not to you. Think of it this way. When you're on an airplane, what does the flight attendant say about oxygen masks? Put yours on first before helping others. Why? Because if you pass out from lack of oxygen, you can't help anyone. The same principle applies to your energy, your time, your emotional well-being. You might be wondering, but how do I start? How do I change patterns that have been in place for years? Maybe decades. The answer is simple but not easy. You start with one small no. One gentle but firm boundary. One act of self-respect. Let me tell you about something that happens in nature. When a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, it goes through a process that scientists call histolysis. During this process, most of the caterpillar's body actually dissolves inside the chrysalis. It becomes a soup of cells before rebuilding itself into something new and beautiful. The caterpillar must literally fall apart to become what it's meant to be. Your journey to stop letting others take advantage of you might feel like that sometimes, like everything you thought you knew about yourself is dissolving. And that's okay. Sometimes we need to break down our old patterns completely to build something stronger and more beautiful. You know what most people get wrong about strengths? They think it's about being tough, unbreakable, always ready for a fight. But true strength, the kind that transforms lives, is much quieter. It's in the soft no that honors your truth. It's in the gentle way you hold your ground when someone tries to push past your limits. It's in the calm way you walk away from situations that drain your spirit. When was the last time you trusted your gut? That quiet voice inside that whispers something isn't right here. So many of us have learned to silence that voice. We've been taught that it's selfish to listen to our own intuition when it conflicts with what others want from us. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. Your intuition is your soul speaking to you. Every time you ignore it, you're teaching yourself that your inner wisdom doesn't matter. Every time you override that gut feeling to please someone else, you're dimming. Think about water for a moment. When water is respected, it brings life. It nurtures. It sustains. But that same gentle water, when forced into too small a space, when pressured beyond its natural boundaries, becomes destructive. People are the same way. When we can't maintain healthy boundaries, our suppressed feelings don't just disappear. They transform into resentment, anxiety, and sometimes even illness. I want you to imagine something with me. Picture yourself as a beautiful garden. Every time you let someone take advantage of you, they're walking through that garden without respect. They're trampling your flowers. They're picking your fruit before it's ripe. They're wearing down the paths until nothing can grow there anymore. Now imagine putting a fence around that garden. Not a wall, a fence. You can still see through it. People can still appreciate your garden's beauty, but now they need to enter through a gate, and you get to decide when that gate opens and closes. That's what healthy boundaries look like. You might be thinking, but I've tried setting boundaries before. People just ignore them. Here's what you need to understand. Boundaries without consequences are just suggestions. Every time you let someone ignore your boundaries without consequence, you're teaching them that your boundaries don't matter. Let me share something powerful with you. Your boundaries don't need anyone else's approval. You don't need to explain them. You don't need to justify them. You don't need to make them palatable to others. Your boundaries are your sacred right as a living, breathing soul in this universe. Think about this. Every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, you're saying no to something you might have wanted to do instead. Every hour you spend with people who drain your energy is an hour you can't spend with those who fill you up. Every moment you waste trying to prove your worth to someone who takes advantage of you is a moment you could have spent recognizing your own innate value. I want you to do something right now. Think about the people in your life who consistently drain you, who take without giving, who make you feel small or used. Now imagine your energy is like a precious currency, because it is. Would you keep investing your money in something that consistently gives you negative returns? Then why do you keep investing your energy there? Here's the truth that might be hard to hear. Some people in your life are emotional vampires. They feed off your energy, your kindness, your desire to help. And just like real vampires, they can't enter your space unless you invite them in. Stop inviting them. But let's talk about something even more important. Why you've been letting this happen. Because here's the thing, people can only take advantage of you to the degree that you let them. That's not about blame, it's about power. Because once you understand that you've been participating in your own exploitation, you also understand that you have the power to stop it. Many of us learned early in life that our value comes from what we do for others. Maybe you were the responsible child who took care of everyone else's feelings. Maybe you learned that love had to be earned through constant. Maybe you were taught that saying no was selfish. These lessons served a purpose once. They helped you survive in situations where you had limited power. But now they're holding you back. They're keeping you small. They're keeping you accessible to people who want to use you rather than love you. You know what's interesting about gardens? They need both sunlight and shade to thrive. They need both water and dry spells. They need both nutrients and space. Your soul is the same way. It needs both giving and receiving, both yes and no, both connection and solitude. When you start setting healthy boundaries, something remarkable happens. The energy you use to spend managing other people's feelings, meeting other people's demands, living other people's lives, that energy comes back to you. And suddenly you have the strength to pursue your own dreams, to nurture your own growth, to create your own joy. This journey isn't about becoming hard or closed off. It's about becoming wise. It's about understanding that your kindness is a gift, not a debt you owe to the world. It's about recognizing that you can be both loving and boundaried, both generous and protected, both caring and strong. Every time you honor your own boundaries, you're teaching the world how to treat you. Every time you say no to what depletes you, you're saying yes to what fulfills you. Every time you choose your own well-being over someone else's demands, you're sending a message to the universe that you are worthy of respect and care. The people who truly love you will celebrate your boundaries. They'll respect your limits because they want you to be whole and healthy. They'll appreciate your yes more because they know you're capable of saying no. They'll value your energy because they see it for what it is, a precious, finite resource that should be honored, not exploited. Look around you right now. Everything you see began as a boundary. Mountains rose up because the earth set boundaries against the sky. Oceans exist because shores set boundaries against the water. Your very skin is a boundary that keeps you whole. The universe itself teaches us that boundaries aren't just important. They're essential to existence. But something happens to many of us on our journey through life. We learn to see our own boundaries as optional, as something we can sacrifice to keep others happy. We start believing that making ourselves smaller somehow makes us better people. Let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. What if your struggle to set boundaries isn't really about being nice at all? What if it's about fear? Fear of confrontation, fear of rejection, fear of standing alone, fear of discovering who you might be if you stop living for everyone else? Take a moment. Let that sink in. Really feel into it. You see, many of us have become masters of what I call peaceful surrender, giving in to keep the peace, saying yes to avoid conflict, shrinking ourselves to fit into spaces others have designed for us. We've convinced ourselves this is kindness, but what if it's really just fear wearing a spiritual costume? Think about the last time you said yes, when your whole body was screaming no. Where did you feel that in your body? Maybe it was a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a tension in your shoulders. Your body was trying to tell you something important, but you overrode its wisdom because your mind said you should. Here's a truth that might change everything for you. Your body's wisdom never lies. Your mind can rationalize anything. It can tell you it's okay to exhaust yourself, okay to ignore your needs, okay to let others take advantage of you. But your body knows better. Your body keeps the score. I want you to do something powerful right now. Think about someone who regularly crosses your boundaries. Notice how your body feels when you think about them. That reaction isn't just emotional. It's your personal truth detector telling you something isn't right. You know what's fascinating about human nature? We often treat others better than we treat ourselves. We would never tell a friend your feelings don't matter. We would never tell a child your needs are less important than making others comfortable. Yet we tell ourselves these things every day through our actions. Let me share something profound with you. Every time you let someone take advantage of you, you're not just having one interaction, you're programming your entire nervous system. You're teaching your brain that you're not worthy of protection. You're telling your heart that its wisdom doesn't matter. You're showing your soul that its purpose is to serve others' needs before its own. But here's the beautiful truth. You can reprogram this. Your brain, your heart, your very cells are waiting for you to stand up and say enough, I matter too. Think about a time when you were a child. And remember how naturally you knew what you wanted and didn't want. How easily you could say no. That wisdom didn't leave you. It just got buried under years of should and must and be nice. That child is still within you. And that child knows something powerful. You don't need a reason to say no. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. There's something nobody tells you about being taken advantage of. It's not just about what others do to you. It's about what you stop doing for yourself. Every time you say yes, when you mean no, you're not just giving away your time or energy. You're giving away pieces of your dreams, your purpose, your potential. Imagine your energy as a beautiful garden again. But this time, imagine it's not just any garden. It's a sacred space where your dreams grow. Every time you let someone take advantage of you, they're not just trampling flowers. They're trampling the seeds of your future, the sprouts of your purpose, the roots of your potential. You might be thinking, but isn't it selfish to protect my energy this way? Let me ask you something. Is it selfish of a flower to need sunlight? Is it selfish of a tree to need water? Is it selfish of a bird to need space to spread its wings? Your needs are not selfish, they're sacred. They're the voice of your soul telling you what it needs to grow. He's a powerful truth. The people who try to make you feel selfish for having boundaries are usually the ones benefiting from you having none. Think about that for a moment. Really let it sink in. You see, when you start honoring your boundaries, something incredible happens. You begin to experience what I call sacred fullness. That state where you're so full of your own light, your own purpose, your own joy, that giving becomes a natural overflow rather than a desperate attempt to prove your worth. But getting there requires something many of us have been taught to fear. Disappointing others. Let me tell you something revolutionary. It's okay to disappoint people. It's okay if not everyone likes your boundaries. It's okay if some people fall away when you stop being their personal problem solver. The people who get angry at your boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having none. The ones who try to make you feel guilty for taking care of yourself are the ones who are using your guilt to control you. I want you to understand something deep in your bones. Your worth is not measured by how available you are to others. Your value is not determined by how much you can give before breaking. Your purpose is not to be everyone's solution. Think about the oxygen mask principle again. But this time, think deeper. It's not just about putting your mask on first. It's about recognizing that you have a right to breathe, that your survival is not secondary to anyone else's comfort, that taking care of yourself is not an act of selfishness, but an act of sacred self-respect. Because every time you enforce a boundary, you're not just protecting yourself. You're showing others what healthy relationships look like. You're teaching by example. You're creating ripples of change that extend far beyond your own life. When you start this journey of reclaiming your power, some people will resist. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You're no longer willing to trade your peace for their comfort. You're no longer willing to silence your truth to maintain their illusions. That's not just change. That's evolution. The discomfort you feel when setting boundaries is temporary. The pain of being taken advantage of is chronic. Choose your pain wisely. Have you ever watched a lotus flower grow? It starts in the mud and the dark in what most would consider terrible conditions. But that's exactly what it needs. The resistance of the mud, the journey through the murky water, that's what gives it the strength to bloom. Your journey to stop letting others take advantage of you is like that lotus. The very resistance you're feeling, the discomfort of change, the fear of standing up for yourself. These aren't obstacles to your growth. They're essential parts of it. Let me share something profound with you. Every time someone has taken advantage of your kindness, they've actually given you a gift. They've shown you exactly where you need to strengthen your boundaries. They've revealed the places where your self-love needs to grow deeper roots. Think about that for a moment. The very people who have depleted you have also been your greatest teachers. Not because they meant to be, but because they showed you what you're no longer willing to accept. You know what's interesting about personal power? It's not about becoming someone new. It's about unbecoming all the things you thought you had to be. It's about peeling away the layers of nice and helpful and always available until you find your authentic core. I want you to do something right now. Close your eyes and imagine your younger self. That child who knew exactly what they wanted and didn't want. That child who could say no without guilt. That child who hadn't yet learned to make themselves smaller to make up. What would that child think about the way you let people treat you now? Here's a truth that might shake you. Every time you let someone take advantage of you, you're not just betraying yourself, you're betraying that child who trusted you to protect them. But here's the beautiful part. It's never too late to start honoring that trust again. It's never too late to start treating yourself with the same fierce protection you'd offer that child. Think about boundaries like the immune system of your soul. Just as your body's immune system knows exactly what to let in and what to keep out, your personal boundaries should do the same. They should welcome what nurtures you and reject what depletes you. You might be wondering, but how do I know what truly nurtures me? Simple. Pay attention to your energy after interactions. Do you feel lighter or heavier? More peaceful or more anxious? More aligned with your truth or more disconnected? Your energy never lies. Let me tell you something powerful about energy. It's your most precious resource. More valuable than money, more important than time. Because without energy, you can't enjoy your money or make the most of your time. So why do we guard our wallets more carefully than we guard our energy? It's not just about what others take from you. It's about what you can no longer give to yourself. When you're depleted from overgiving to those who take advantage, you have nothing left for your own dreams, your own growth, your own joy. Think about that. Really let it sink in. Every time you say yes when your soul is screaming. No, you're not just giving away your time or energy. You're giving away pieces of your destiny. You're trading your purpose for temporary peace. You're exchanging your potential for momentary approval. Is that a trade you're willing to keep making? You see, many of us have been taught that strength means never needing help, never saying no, never showing vulnerability. But true strength is knowing exactly what you need and having the courage to honor it, even when others don't understand. Here's something in evolution. So your needs are not up for debate. Your boundaries are not negotiable. Your worth is not determined by how useful you are to others. Let me share a powerful truth with you. The moment you start treating yourself with deep respect, the universe starts reflecting that respect back to you. But it has to start with you. It has to start with your willingness to stand in your truth. Even think about water again. When water meets an obstacle, it doesn't fight. It flows. It finds another way. That's what setting boundaries with grace looks like. You don't need to fight. You don't need to argue. You just need to flow around those who don't respect your boundaries. Flowing around someone doesn't mean letting them push you around. Water is gentle. Yes, but it's also one of the most powerful forces in nature. It can carve canyons. It can shape mountains. It can create paths where none existed before. Your boundaries can be like that. Gentle but powerful, flexible but unshakable. When you start setting healthy boundaries, you're not just changing your life. You're changing the lives of everyone around you. You're showing others what self-respect looks like. You're teaching, by example, what healthy relationships feel like. Think about this. Every time you maintain a boundary with grace, you're creating a ripple effect. You're showing others that it's possible to be both kind and strong, both loving and boundaried, both generous and self-respecting. There's a truth that might transform everything for you. The people who truly belong in your life will respect your boundaries. They might not like them at first. They might need time to adjust, but they will respect them. Why? because they care more about your well-being than their convenience. The ones who don't respect your boundaries, they're showing you exactly why you needed those boundaries in the first place. Remember this, every time you hold a boundary, you're not just saying no to what drains you. You're saying yes to what fills you. You're not just protecting your energy. You're preserving it for what truly matters. Your boundaries are not walls. They're bridges to your authentic self. They're pathways to the life you're meant to live. They're doorways to deeper, more meaningful connections with those who genuinely care about your well-being. When you start this journey of setting and maintaining boundaries, something magical happens. The energy you use to spend managing other people's feelings becomes available for your own growth. The time you used to spend proving your worth to others becomes time you can spend recognizing your inherent value. Think about that transformation. Feel into it. What could you do with all that reclaimed energy? What dreams could you pursue? What gifts could you share with the world? Not from a place of depletion, but from a place of sacred fullness. As we come to this moment together, I want you to feel something deep in your soul that's stirring inside you. That's not just emotion. That's your inner wisdom awakening. That's your spirit rising to reclaim it. Think about a mighty oak tree for a moment. Do you know what gives it its strength? Not just its thick trunk or deep roots, but something invisible yet vital. The space around it. That space allows it to sway in storms without breaking. It allows its branches to grow in all directions. It allows it to be fully, magnificently itself. Your boundaries are that space. They're not just about keeping others out. They're about giving yourself room to grow into who you're meant to be. Let me share something powerful with you. The moment you decide to stop letting others take advantage of you isn't just a moment of setting boundaries. It's a moment of coming home to yourself. It's your soul's declaration. It's not just about learning to say no. It's about learning to say yes. Yes to your dreams. Yes to your needs. Yes to your right to exist as more than someone else's convenience. Think about every time you've pushed down your own truth to keep someone else comfortable. Every time you've silenced your inner voice to avoid rocking the boat. Every time you've made yourself small to make others feel big. Now imagine gathering all those moments, all those silenced truths, all those compressed parts of yourself and setting them free. That's what we're really talking about here. Freedom. Freedom to be fully yourself. Freedom to honor your own needs. Freedom to live from your truth rather than from your fears. You know what's beautiful about this kind of freedom? It doesn't require anyone else's permission. It doesn't need anyone else's approval. It simply requires your decision to value yourself as much as you value others. When you stop letting people take advantage of you, you're not becoming less loving. You're loving more wisely. You're not becoming less giving. You're giving from a place of authentic choice rather than fear or obligation. Think about love for a moment. Real love. The kind that nurtures souls and transforms lives doesn't take advantage. It doesn't drain. It doesn't diminish. Real love respects boundaries because real love wants the other person to thrive, not just survive. So when someone resists your boundaries, they're showing you their relationship with you isn't about love. It's about control. Let that truth sit with you. Let it strengthen your resolve. Every time you maintain a boundary, you're not just changing your present. You're healing your past. You're showing your younger self that someone finally sees their worth. You're showing your wounded parts that someone finally cares enough to protect them. And you're changing your future. Every boundary you set today creates a path for tomorrow. Every time you choose self-respect over people-pleasing, you're building a foundation for a life of authentic power. Your sensitivity, that part of you that feels deeply, gives freely, cares intensely, it's not a weakness to be overcome. It's a gift to be protected. Like a precious jewel, it needs a strong setting to shine safely in the world. Your boundaries are that setting. They don't diminish your light. They help it shine more brightly. They don't make you less compassionate. They make your compassion more sustainable. I want you to do something powerful right now. Put your hand on your heart again. Feel its steady beat. That rhythm is your life force, your vital energy, your sacred gift to this world. Now make a promise to that heart. Promise that from this moment forward. You'll treat your energy as the precious resource it is. Promise that you'll stop saying yes when your heart is screaming no. Promise that you'll listen to your body's wisdom when it tells you something isn't right. Promise that you'll honor your own needs with the same dedication you've shown to others' needs. There's a truth that might change everything. The world doesn't need another martyr. It doesn't need another exhausted giver. It doesn't need another person who's burned themselves out trying to prove their worth through endless giving. What the world needs is you fully alive, deeply connected to your truth, standing in your power. What the world needs is your gifts offered from a place of wholeness, not depletion. Think about this. Every time you set a healthy boundary, you're not just changing your own life. You're sending ripples of transformation into the world. You're showing others what self-respect looks like. You're demonstrating that it's possible to be both kind and powerful, both loving. Your journey of reclaiming your power isn't just about you. It's about every person who will see you and think, if they can do it, so can I. It's about every child who will learn from your example that their needs matter. It's about every relationship that will be transformed by your courage to be authentically yourself. As we close, I want you to feel the power of this moment. Feel the strength that's always been within you, waiting to be unleashed. Feel the wisdom that's always been in your heart, waiting to be heard. You don't need to set all your boundaries perfectly today. You don't need to transform every relationship overnight. You just need to take one step, set one boundary, honor one truth at a time. Start with one small no, one gentle but firm boundary, one act of self-respect. Then watch how your world begins to change. Watch how people begin to treat you differently. Watch how your relationship with yourself transforms. When you stop letting people take advantage of you, you're not just setting boundaries. You're setting yourself free. You're not just protecting your energy. You're unleashing your power. You're not just changing your relationships with others. You're healing your relationship with yourself. And that, my friends, is the greatest transformation of all. Your time of being taken advantage of is over. Your moment of standing in your power has arrived. Your journey to authentic living begins now. Welcome home to yourself.